Hello and welcome to the AV Experience. I'm your host, Ryan from Ascend Audio Video, joined by Ben Goff of Cinema Bureau. And today we're going to do the state of the video address because we haven't talked about video in a while. We talk a lot about audio. We kind of talk about it little bits here and there when we're doing rooms in review and things like that. But Ben and I's passion, for and foremost, is audio, and video in a lot of situations gets pushed by the wayside, gets a back seat to a lot of this. But it doesn't mean that to other people it is not as important, if not more important, than the audio part of this. And Ben, you brought this up because you had seen last week, you'd gone to a local distributor and
We
you'd
did,
had the
yeah.
opportunity to see several different projectors. Now, before we go into that, I want to highlight M-Wave. I should have updated the background. I didn't. Ryan Kramer's going to get mad at me. But M-Wave, September 18th through the 20th. Well, 19th through the 20th. 18th is not open now. We have to use it for setup. 19th through the 20th. There are going to be at least 14 projectors at M-Wave in the video comparison room. So if that's something you want to be able to see, they will be shooting on two side-by-side Seymour AV screens. Mad VR will be there, so using it on, off, not just doing the comparisons with Mad VR, but that will be there. So if you have any interest in seeing what we're about to talk about, M-Wave Midwest AV Experience in Kansas City. It's significantly smaller this year, but it doesn't mean that it is any less enjoyable. Adam Peltz will be there. He's doing a couple seminars. Jason Dustel, head of ISF, will be there, giving a couple seminars. And our own, well, can't say our own, Jeffrey Heinzel will be there talking about doing a couple seminars on some different things. So lots of things to learn, lots of things to see. Come join us. Tickets are available at midwestavexperience.net. Anyway, you had the experience or opportunity to see a couple projectors.
Yeah, well,
And by
more
a couple, I
projectors,
mean many.
actually. Saw, what do we see? 9 or 10 different displays. So it was it's AWE Europe distributor. They are like 20 minutes from my office, and I am rubbish at ever going to visit distributors. I'm terrible at it. I normally see all my products that I need to see at ISE or CDR Expo.
Yeah.
Anything else people kind of bring to us that we need, right? I'm really lazy, let's be honest.
Well,
So
you get to a point where you know what you like.
yeah.
And you know what does really well, not just what you like, but you know what you need to utilize. And if something else is going to come out, it makes waves enough that you know that it's coming. So it's not that things sneak up on us anymore in a lot of ways. So I don't fault you.
Yeah. So I'm dodging CDR Expo this year, so I could give myself a day out to go and see some product. So it was fun. It was just what became interesting for me. If I think about like what we do in our demo rooms against what I want from a distributor. Now, you know, how a distributor runs their business, that's their business.
We're going to pick on distributors for a moment because I think this needs, from a professional standpoint, this needs to be addressed.
Yeah, what I want from a distributor is maybe different from what other people want because we have our own demo facility. Now, I know for a lot of distributors, their demo rooms are the rooms that integrators take clients to because they don't have their own facilities or they don't have the right products they want to show. So I know that these rooms get used for end user demos. I get that. But for me, like when we do a demo here, I'm showing the totality of the experience that we as an integrator deliver. So everything from a design to whole thing, that's on us here. When I go to a distributor, what is really useful for me is to be able to see a whole range of products in the same environment, set up by the same person to get a comparison. So what I loved of what we could do at AWE is in their two cinema rooms, each of them has 3 projectors in. So across 2 rooms, you see 6 projectors. They've just put the Sony crystal LED video wall in their lobby. Next to that, they've got the Hisense 120-inch flat screen, or 117, is it? Like, call it 120.
Like a 115 or something.
Yeah, right. So you've got this very expensive micro LED, crystal LED, right? You know, this top of the range, big Sony next to the Hisense, which is not massively smaller. They've got it like a 165-ish, I think, with Sony versus just shy of 120 on the Hisense.
And it doesn't seem that much smaller, but that's a lot of surface area
Right.
sitting next to it.
And that's useful to see in the same space how much difference that is. And then you consider the price. You know, the Hisense UK retail is about £25,000. We're talking what, $30,000 our price. Who knows what it is with all your import duties, and you know that
Boozer
price could
tax,
change any moment because we'll just stick on a tax today, right? So who knows what your price are, right? But it's about 25,000 retail here. Sony was like, I don't know, 6-7 times that, I guess.
Oh yeah,
I forget even what it was. Right,
that Sony wall's expensive.
In fact, I think it was. I want to say it was £270,000. So 12 times what the Hisense cost.
It is one of the only, if I remember correctly, it is one of the only walls though that is gloss.
It is gloss, yeah.
Yes,
which is interesting.
There's not many, which does make a difference for perceived contrast.
Right.
Absolutely. So take that for what it's worth. But your point with that is you're comparing dollars versus dollars,
right?
Euros versus euros on this, or pounds versus pounds.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
In a room with the same lighting, you know, they're not side by side. They're at 90 degrees to each other in the showroom, right?
Still, they're there.
Right. The room is lit the same. So I'm getting now a real world in a room, you know, they call it resi-mercial, right? So it's a commercial space, but they've made it feel kind of residential. And it gives you that real world chance to see the two different display technologies at two vastly different price points side by side. When we see them on a show floor lighting is aggressively bright.
It's very bright.
And every stand is then lit differently. So actually seeing different displays in the same room is not always easy on a show floor. So it's useful, right? And for me, actually, it's something that AWE have done really well to let a dealer go and see back to back to back the same things in the same rooms and where they're different. So, hey, we got off to a bad start on the Sony because I didn't like it. That was kind of the one thing I went to see. Didn't like it. I'll be honest. This is somebody from AWE is probably watching. I'm going to get punched.
You didn't like that wall?
I didn't like it because, as it turns out, the content they were feeding it didn't work very well on it. So,
guys,
right?
People doing these demos, figure this. I'm calling you out, AWE, because I work as a vendor for Mad VR. If you're going to show product, make sure it's working to the best of its ability.
And maybe I'm hypersensitive. I don't know, right? They just had an event recently. They had a big event that Sony came to, right? So what was on it when we arrived was Blade Runner 2049 that's filmed on Sony cameras, mastered on Sony displays, being displayed on a Sony CLED display. I asked what the file was, where it come from, how it's being played. It was a USB stick. It was a Sony supplied trailer. I now know it was going into a Blu-ray player that was then feeding the display. But it had this weird thing. It was almost like it was tearing occasionally. It was like almost sort of describe it as, I mean, it's not rainbow effect, nothing like that, but it gave me that same unease occasionally. And I was like, I couldn't work it out. I was really disappointed. I was like, okay, well, it's really expensive. We can't spec this. This is a disaster because I really wanted to like it. We changed from MKV files to MP4 files. They had a whole load of stuff on these USB sticks. Every MKV they played had these weird artifacts. Every MP4 they played, beautiful, stunning, images incredible, everything I could want it to do, it did. And it's like, it shouldn't. You've just had a big event. It shouldn't take me to sit here and say, guys, there's something wrong with that content. But hey, we worked it out. The screen's lovely. So a blip. It's
that may not, in that context, that may not have even been the wall's fault. That could have been the player.
I'm going to go with it was the Blu-ray player's fault. I don't think, because it was an MKV versus an MP4 file thing. I do not think it was anything to do with the display. I reckon it was how the file had been encoded or how it was being decoded on the Blu-ray player.
That's an older wall. Have they updated that recently?
Oh, it was a brand new. It's literally just gone in on demo.
Well, I know that. I'm saying, has that model been updated recently, or Sony done? It's a gorgeous wall. That wall has always been really pretty. um, especially because of the gloss finish. It's not the greatest in something like a living room with lots of ambient light, but for a more dedicated space, good wall. Expensive, good wall.
Yeah. So, yeah,
What
it
do you
like,
think of the Hisense?
for the money, I love it. And here's a real challenge, isn't it? Because a lot of what we do in cinema, we hide, right? We try and hide the speakers normally. We
Mhm,
we rarely build rooms where things are visible. Projection's gonna be in a dedicated projection room or at least in a hush box. It's gonna be as hidden as it can. I
mhm.
like to get speakers inside walls. I wanna remove distraction, okay? So the brand name on a speaker or a projector doesn't really matter to me. And I'm aware that when you put a TV in your living room that you're gonna spend £25,000, you call it $30,000 on, there is some ego attached to what that is, and there's aspiration. And I don't know if Hisense is there yet. They're spending huge amounts of money on marketing. But the kind of client who's gonna spend $30,000, are they ready to put a Hisense
That is a good
in their
question.
living room for $30,000, no matter how good it is? And God, it looked lovely. So honestly, the only quirk I have right now is, are people ready to spend $30,000 on a
On a
Hisense?
Hisense.
And I think it should, right? If you're in that market, it's good. Like, I would not be put off by that brand name at all.
Mhm.
It's whether people can get past their own ego of, I'm going to spend $30,000 on a Hisense.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, it's very similar to, like, if Kia made a hypercar, right?
right.
Are you gonna buy one coming from Kia? I don't
You
know.
know what do at the Nürburgring, the ring taxi. So when you book a hot lap with a professional driver, I'm pretty sure they're Hyundais that they
Oh,
use,
the N,
right?
whatever they are?
Absolutely rapid, fast,
Yeah. They're
fast as
not
you
slow.
like. But do you want to buy a
A
Hyundai?
Hyundai.
Right, and
Yeah, I don't
that
know.
and I think people need to get past that, and it's something that is great for us in cinema because we put the engineering first and the
Mhm,
figures and the performance, and I don't worry about brand names. I try not to discuss brands with clients until we're locked in because
mhm.
I don't think it matters, but I'm not sure that's true in
The
your living
performance
room when it's
matters,
got
the
a
tool
brand on it.
matters. What
It
delivers the capability? What are you
Yeah,
chasing? What gets
sure.
you there?
So
Who
that was
cares what
cool.
name's etched on the bottom?
That was cool. And then,
'Kay.
projectors, I'm gonna be controversial.
I don't think you're gonna be controversial,
I don't know.
but I think you're gonna be more vocal about what you saw than you normally are.
You know how important black levels are?
Oh, this controversial.
I
Um,
think I'm over it.
uh, I mean, you've kinda been saying that during your demos for a while. I mean, you've
I
got
know.
the Barco, you're going more commercial, and I think commercial has taken a approach of now, let me throw a caveat into this. This does not mean because I'm on the same point that Ben is. This does not mean that, black levels are worthless. There just gets to a point where you can't have both. I can't have JVC level black floor and 10,000 lumens
Right, doesn't
for
exist. Oh,
$30,000.
I mean, right, where do we take these trade-offs, okay?
Or because we people get mad at us for always being expensive. I can't have, whatever level of take a single chip DLP, and I know it's getting better, but there's a lot of artifacts and stuff that go with it. I can't have 6,000 lumens and a 40,000 to 1 native contrast ratio. It's not gonna happen, right?
No.
It's a either or kind of decision. You've gotta choose which compromise am I willing to make? And so Ben
Yeah,
is not saying that he doesn't value native contrast to the black floor. He's saying he values the brightness more than he values the native contrast. As long as the native contrast, I think is where you're going, is good enough.
yeah, It needs to be good enough. Exactly that. So in the smaller room at AWE, we had I've written them down so I remember them. I did at least some prep today. Right. We had the Optoma UHZ 68 LV. Hey, I'm slightly biased towards Optoma. I got it, I don't know how long ago. A lifetime ago, I worked for Optoma. You know,
did.
yeah, I have some fondness. I had my own little dark room. I was in product development Optoma, so I have some bias, right? I like the products at the price points. I think they do great things.
Yeah, they're really cheap in a lot of
Right.
applications.
They've
Which
also got
doesn't
the
necessarily mean bad.
Sorry?
Cheap does not always mean worse performance. Optoma
Low
brings a
cost.
lot to the table for not a lot. They do have we talk all the time about compromises. You are going to give up things. There are
Right.
gonna be some niggles, as I'll use
Yeah.
something from Ben that get you, like the Optima, something 50 had its own not intentional bias lighting where it was shooting light out behind the lenses, and it's just
Yeah.
to get to the price point that they're trying to get to, there's going to be issues. You
Right.
gotta give up something.
Right. And you know, at this mass market, every cent and every dollar counts, right? You
Oh,
know,
no
there were times
question.
there were times I was speccing things like remote controls that I knew was for a projector which was going to end up in universities and in lecture halls. So we're about to place like our first opening run of manufacture will be 10,000 units. If we take the 50-cent remote or the $1 remote or the $2 remote, right? In this use case, in a lecture hall, it's going to be RS-232 in those days, right? Absolutely every time. That remote, if it's even used the day it's set up, I'd be amazed. Then it's going in the bin. If I buy the $2 remote, which had a backlight, it was much nicer, on the opening production run, that's $20,000 of remotes against $5,000 of remotes. Take the cheap one.
Yeah.
And that trickles into everything, right? In the lens, right? So of course they're made to a price, but they can do great things. So you put that next to the Epson QB1000 and the Sony Bravia 7, right? I mean, without even seeing them, we all know the Bravia 7 is leagues better. I mean, it's better in every way, except it's not, because it's beautiful in pitch black conditions in a jet black room on a small enough screen. But if you try and push that screen too big, if you've got white walls, like it's great having JVC contrast levels, but if you leave some step lights on, all bets are off, right?
Yeah.
So I think low cost projectors, if I look at what Cinema Lussa did to Christy and I think almost 100% of the low cost projectors we sold last year were Epsons.
Yeah.
And having seen these three at the same price point, what will we continue to sell? Epsons.
Now, talking about price point, the big players recently, at least for consumer direct brands, have been AWOL Valerian and the Exumi Titan.
Right.
Those have been two big players. And I had a thought last week, and I ran this by one of my local friends, John McAdoo. And John has actually both of them, and he has a JVC. So he has an NZ500, he has the Titan, and he has a Valerian. And he likes all of them. But I ran this by him to be like, is my thought making sense? Because I know I'd thought about this before, but it was part of like, are people not thinking about this? And I think a good portion are not thinking about this. And you brought this up with the Optima. And that is, let's say you get the Valerian or the Titan because you want brightness. And I bring this up because I'm seeing more threads on this on AVS. I'm pretty active on AVS and I see more threads, and there's some really active threads for this specific thing. And people talk about, well, it's got speckle, right? It's a laser, single chip DLP. 3-chip DLPs struggle with this. We'll talk about this in a little bit later because I actually looked at some XY materials um, over the weekend with John, or last week with John on the Griffin. And so we'll come back to that. The Griffin is not immune to speckle. It has speckle. Laser, it's an issue with lasers. Well, that's one thing you have to get around. More so, the Valerian and the Titan have pretty significant speckle issues. And one of the ways you get around it is you use a diffused screen like woven material.
Yeah.
But what is the compromise when you go woven? You lose gain, right? You're not going to get the positive gain. So the thought that I had is people are chasing these brighter projectors, right? But they're taking those brighter projectors and putting them on a 0.7 gain screen. Why are you compromising in some ways, getting this brighter projector and then throwing away everything that you wanted from it with the screen? Wouldn't it,
Yeah.
and I ran this by John because he bought this NZ500 recently, and he's like, if I could get the brightness, I would 100% every time, and I know I'm speaking for you, John, pick the JVC. The JVC it doesn't have the artifacts. It's got a much better native contrast. I realize that the Xgimi and the Valerian do decently well with laser dimming and such, but it goes back to why buy something that you're trying to accomplish and then immediately throw it away, that benefit, to try
Sure.
and fix one of the compromises that projector has to get that brightness.
Right.
Start with something that doesn't have that and is not compromising on that ideal. It, to me, makes sense. Now, you could, well, there's no could. The John could then theoretically throw like a positive gain screen of like a Stewart ST130 at it, but his problem is he sits 9 feet from it and he's going to
Yeah.
see the speck hole, so he couldn't do it. So he what's acoustically transmissive no matter what, acoustically transparent. He needs woven. So for him, I get it. It's, he's got a woven screen. The Xgimi is going to be brighter. He made the choice given what he was going to have. Like, I have to have a woven screen. What is going to deliver X, Y, or Z? Well, I like this one because it's brighter.
Yeah.
That was his decision. But that was my noodle thought last week and over the weekend is I feel like a lot of people aren't considering that. They're like, "Oh, I'm getting 6,000 lumens." And then they don't realize if they go to F4, they're significantly lower than that. And then they're going to
Yep.
throw it on a negative gain screen to get rid of the speckle. I'm like,
Yep.
you've just gotten rid of every benefit that it has. So my point with all of that is not to say that those projectors are bad. It's to say you need to think, we talk about this a lot with audio in theaters, everything is a system. Don't look at it
100%.
as everything in a vacuum, everything individually. It needs to be the sum of its parts. So if you're looking at a new projector, you need to say, okay, this brightness, what am I going to have to do to make this work? And put that all out and write it out, draw it out, do whatever before you make that decision. Because I think a lot of people aren't thinking of that when they're
Yeah.
making these choices.
Yeah. And factor that whole thing through from seating distance, screen size,
Mm-hmm.
which determines screen area. So how big is the area we've got to throw the light at? Because,
Mm-hmm.
the JVC is wonderful. Yeah, it does so many things beautifully.
Bright, it is not, though.
Would I want to, if for my money, would I want to have a JVC on a screen wider than 3 meters?
Probably not.
Not for my money, right? For
No.
my money, I'd go somewhere else.
No.
And that's the trade-off is it's great at what it does, but don't push it outside of what it's good at. And that was actually a shame for the Optoma I saw for me, that the Optoma had all the brightness I needed on the screen size we were seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Its trade-off was that I couldn't escape the rainbow effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hey, when I worked at Optoma and with DLP since, there have been DLPs that I can almost choose to detune myself to rainbow effect. I almost have that ability to switch it off as long as it's close enough And sometimes I just don't even see it. When we've got really fast color wheels, or like some of the older Optoma cinema projectors, I just did not have a concern with rainbow effect. On this UHZ 68LV, I'm pretty sure that's what it was we saw, I couldn't get rid of it. And my concern there, and this is where, hey, a distributor works, because I could take a client to see it. But if I've got to sell a projector unseen, it's purely going on my recommendation. If I put that Optoma in and the client sees rainbow, I'm taking it back. Now I've got an open box Optoma. If I put the Epsom in, you might, depending on the screen material, depending on the seating distance, you might see some chicken wire effect, right? The gaps between pixels do become visible on that technology.
You're saying like a screen door effect.
Right, exactly that. There is
Pixels
some visible artifacting there on that projector. Is it a deal breaker for a client that sees it, and they might not see it? If it's a woven material and if they're sat far enough, they may never even see it.
Probably not, yeah.
But if they do see it, are they going to send it back? Or is it within tolerable? I've never known anybody we've sold one of these Epsons to even mention it. It's never even been a conversation, or we've never had one we've put into a client's home on the screen materials we choose, and they turn around and say, what's that? I can see, like, why can I see pixel structure? Never even happened, right? Because I think we're designing the right materials, the right distance, right screen size to mitigate it. But I'm pretty sure it would never get to a deal breaker. So if I'm gonna sell the Optoma, I have to put a client in front of it first. The Epson,
I really think you should put a client in front of most of these so they make an informed decision.
Sure, it's not always possible.
It's not, but it is, I think, the correct pathway forward.
I agree, but it's I accept it's not always possible. And at these price points, sometimes, you know, the client will come to see us, but whether I can take them to our place and to one or two distributors to see different products, their time often, if they're spending lots and lots of money or they're an enthusiast, sure. If it's part of a big renovation of a home and it's just one room that's being dealt with and they're as worried about the kitchen as they are about the cinema, am I going to get them to visit 3 or 4 places to see different products? Maybe not, right? So at that point, to me, the Epson is a safe bet.
So let's break this. If you had $6,000 to $8,000, what projector would you choose?
QB1000. Without any further doubt, right?
You choose it over the NZ500?
Okay, it depends on screen size. Okay, so we go back. It depends on screen size. In my mind, UK pricing, the NZ's more than that, but maybe it's not. Okay, so how much is a NZ? Okay, yeah, it would completely depend on screen size because they are fairly similar price.
Yeah.
But we're talking, what, 5,000 lumens against...
No.
Oh, no, sorry. It's 3.3 against 2.
Yeah. So it is significantly different. It's not as significant as one may think, but on smaller screens, it can make, I mean, it's over a third difference. I think the other one to throw in there, depending on what, you know, people are always like, Ryan, you don't like it. I think it's not as cheap as it once was, but the Xgimi Titan Noir Max, for that amount of money, the brightness that you can get, the laser dimming's decent. People talk about the tone map. It's got a lot of things going for it, but it also has a lot of compromises that go with it, like the Epson does, like the JVC does. So it's very much a what tool establish. What do I need?
Yeah.
What experience do I want? What are my existing tools? What is my screen size? What is my throw distance? What is the screen material? You know, how much brightness do I want? What type of content am I watching? What is the aspect? All of that stuff. You lay all that out. And then you say, these are my 3 tools or whatever. And take that and try and fit it. Which one gets that tool done? Right? If I'm on a construction site, I'm not going to try and hit a screw with a hammer. Right? I'm not going to do that. It's the incorrect tool for that job. I'm going to use a screw gun, maybe an impact, depending on what I'm trying to do. It's the correct tool to do that job. So make sure you're using the correct tool to do that job. I think
So
all three of those have their place.
in the US, if you're who are you buying the Eximi from? Is it direct?
Yes.
Okay, so I've not got loads of eyes on it, but for me, what's really important, it will be important for myself and for clients, is I know with that Epson, if it fails, the distributor holding stock is 20 minutes from my
Yeah,
house,
I
right?
agree.
I am gonna have another one in the back of my car within 25 minutes of a phone call saying it's failed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on site however long it takes me to drive, right? The switch out immediate fix to a client problem when I've got a local distributor that gives me good
And that's
support,
something that you pay
that's
for.
got real value.
Yes, there is a value to be had with that. Now the question becomes, primary audience on this show is enthusiasts. Does that is that a value add to them? I don't know. It depends on the person. So, like I said, just pick the correct tool. So
Right.
I think in that price range, depending on the need, the Epson, the JVC, and the Titan are all great potential
Now
options.
now we talking of tools, we've now got to jump to a question that's coming from Macro Proxy, because he's fired this straight at you. This is a direct question to you, Ryan. You don't think it's ever worth going low gain if you have the brightness to maintain 300 or 400 nits versus 900 nits? Now, I'm not familiar with many projectors in the screen sizes I'm playing with that are going to hit 900 nits on any
Mhm.
screen material. So, over to you on this.
I actually think a lower gain is the better option. And the reason I do is because lower gains typically have at least some level of ambient light rejection. You can play with gray materials, which are going to perceptually increase or make better your black floor.
Sure.
Um, there's just benefits with going low gain. So I think that door opens when you have a high brightness capability projector. And is actually something that I was looking at with John on Friday. We were looking at some gray materials, and I put up the gray material, and it's the only one that I know of that'll get the screen height that I need because my screen
Yeah.
is decently tall. It's not enormous, but it's 7 feet tall or so, 7.5 feet tall. So it's not small. So the limiting right now is that not enough people want gray materials. They haven't opened up the bigger looms to be able to manufacture these materials because they're woven. And we put up a gray XY material. And it was kind of an interesting material because it looked like it had gray and white in it. And the problem I had with it is I could see texture in it and it wasn't smooth enough. So I was comparing it to a Harmony G3 from Stewart, a Seymour Screen Excellence Neo, and even the 8K material from XY. And it just didn't that material, that gray 4K, you could see all the texture and it had this weird feel to it. And the
Sure.
interesting part was the black wasn't actually very different at all from the white.
Right.
It was close enough that if I left the room and came back and you didn't tell me you changed the material, I don't know that I would have noticed. So,
So,
why
okay.
am I going to sacrifice my white point for something that isn't really perceptually different? Now,
Let me flip it. Let me flip this the other way. Are there any positive gain screens that you like?
I want to highlight this by saying
Positive being above 1.
it just like the projector, it depends on the need.
Okay.
Right? If I'm going into a room and I've got a bigger screen and the client says, "Hey, I've already got an NZ500," I'm probably already going to be thinking positive gain screen because I need to augment
And
that
what would you use?
limited bright.
Which positive gain screens do you like?
Big one, which I think is the best in the industry, is the Stewart ST130.
130, okay.
I mean, it's really good.
Sure.
It's really good. It just it could The perf, if you sit too close, you're gonna see perf
There's
holes.
there's your trade-off,
That
seating
is the big
distance.
one. Seating distance, and you are compromising the audio. There is more audio attenuation on a perf
Yeah.
screen. I mean, ideally in my room, what I would like is something like a Stewart Gray Mat 70 with perf holes that I can't see. That's where I'd like to be. I think that
Yeah, it's
gray.
right. But we've got trade-offs, haven't we? So I will almost always take a woven screen for
Mhm.
exactly the same reason what I said about the Optoma. Unless I can get a client in front of the perforated screen at the exact screen size that I'm proposing and sit them at the exact seating distance with the exact projector, it scares me.
It does, because it's an
Because
unknown. Are you
if
gonna see
you
him or are you
see
not?
those perfs, you'll never unsee them.
Well, not only that will you see them, there are projectors like the Griffin's really bad with this, where the lasers will actually refract on the perf holes, and you start seeing these RBE artifacts on all of
Yeah,
the perforations. So there are benefits, but I'd say even more so than the projector, you've got to see the screen
right.
because it makes people that'll say, "Oh, screen doesn't," dude, it matters. They're all
Yeah,
different. It's the texture, especially when you start getting to super high brightness, that texture starts to become more and more and more apparent.
yeah,
Lower brightness, I don't know. I don't, it's harder to see, but when you start getting in it, I could easily, we put up a bunch of different materials. The texture was probably the biggest differentiator between all of these materials and how they actually looked. Were they flat enough? Were they not? And the brightness is a big part of what made that visible. So to me, if you've got a brighter projector, it opens up some doors on choices on which materials you can do positive or negative gains. I think negative gains are typically better in a lot of ways because
mhm,
they don't have your off angle viewing is more consistent. They have the ambient light rejecting properties in a lot of those materials. There's a lot of
yeah,
positives that go with a negative gain
yeah. So
screen.
it's an interesting thing, right? So when we build a room, I need a client to trust me on the audio because we can't
Mhm.
demo that system in their room with their acoustics on their dimensions, their seating. We are going to design and build this system ground up, complete turnkey room. So there's never an opportunity to demo exactly what we're going to build for them. Every single one is essentially a beta test. We're
Mhm.
designing engineering it to the limit because we cannot demo it in exactly the way it's going to be built. Because
Now,
two rooms, different size, they sound different, they behave different.
you
But
say 2
video,
rooms, and I think this is a good question for this. This is pertaining to video. I'm now regretting buying the NZ800 now for a 150-inch Seymour woven screen. Light-controlled room with Mad VR Extreme. Room will still under construction, haven't seen it. I'm guessing you got a Seymour Center Stage XD. The Center Stage XD is actually one of the higher gain woven screens, so I don't think you're in that bad of a position, if at all. The interesting thing about video and audio, the human memory is god awful. It's really bad.
yeah,
And the reason I bring that up is because if you watch something in your room, you're probably going to think it looks great, regardless of the brightness. You're going to
100%.
think it looks great. You're not going to be able to tell the brightness of that screen unless you put something else right next to it. The right next to it is what allows people to go, "Oh my god, this is like night and day." Unless you do that, you will not know.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to worry about it, just don't do that. You will enjoy your experience.
Right.
David,
Are
that
you gonna get
projector.
it as bright as a mum and pop commercial cinema? Because
No.
if that's your reference,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
you're gonna get it there, right?
But you know
Are
what
you
he
gonna
is
get
gonna
it
get?
to sorry?
You know what he is gonna get from that lower light output? He's gonna have a better black floor.
Sure. Black's gonna be incredible. You're gonna be as bright as a typical independent mum and pop cinema, commercial cinema.
Mhm.
If that's your reference of what cinematic looks like, you're gonna be there. Is it gonna be as bright as going to a Dolby cinema?
No.
Probably not in this case, right? We're not gonna get there.
But you know what you
But
have to do in order to do that? Spend a crap ton more money. When you
or
start wanting all this
or
stuff.
or you accept other compromises. You accept a
Yes.
way less black level. You accept some screen texture for screen door effect, right? There's going to be a compromise. There is no free lunch
Nope.
between these video technologies.
Nope.
So then this becomes interesting of where we go next, like for even more brightness and bigger screens, because I think I'd only seen the big Epsons
Mhm.
at trade shows. I'm not sure I'd ever seen one actually in a residential type space, in a proper demo room, a fixed room. I think I've only seen them at trade shows. So that thing's putting out the QL7000. It's putting out like 10,000 nits.
10,000 lumens.
Okay, now let's just be really clear for anyone from Sony that wants to lynch me. I did like that screen once we changed the content, right? So I'm not anti-Sony. Let's just be clear. This room I saw this Epson in used to have a GTZ 380 in it.
Mm-hmm.
About 10,000 lumens, give or take, right? We're talking the same light output on this Epson as that. It must be half of it. I mean, I don't even know how much quieter it is. It's a
They're
whole
quiet.
jet engine quieter, right?
They are quiet.
It's a jet quieter. It's about 4 bald eagles smaller. It's way smaller than the 370, right? It's quarter of the price, give or take. Once you factor in lenses, and maybe not quite a third, maybe a quarter, depending on which lenses you need. Loads of placement flexibility with the Epson. It's quieter. It's pushing out loads of light. I really liked it.
But compromise, it doesn't have the interesting contrast that the Sony had.
No.
And it has less native contrast.
All of these things. So, and this is why I say I'm kind of over black levels a bit, because you've got to get it right. And actually, maybe the trade-off, if you're going to do a 16:9 screen, is you put some money in top-bottom masking. Like I always do, the screen aspect ratio, it needs to be planned depending on where you reach your first constraint. Either go wide or go tall. If you've got a low ceiling, don't waste it by not going wide just because you've hit, like at that point, go scope and have side masking. But when you've got a reduced black level natively in the projector, masking becomes way more important. Like,
I think masking is important regardless. I think masking is an under thought about application and projection. I think it is not as valuable as the projector and the screen itself, but it makes an immersive difference. And the biggest demo that I ever saw of it was at M-Wave in 2022. Chris Seymour brought some masking panels, and we had a non-mask screen on the left and a mask screen on the right, and we were shooting them. One was the LS12000 right when it released, and the other one was an NZ8 on the other side. The NZ8 should annihilate the LS12000. Right?
Should.
The difference was when you put masking on the LS12000, they looked perceptually much more even because you lost the ability to perceive the black bar and you weren't able to compare as much the native contrast. And this is when actually I think the LS12000 looked better because at that point the LS12000 had better ANSI contrast, interesting contrast than the JVCs did. That is no longer the case. The new ones, the new JVCs have, I think it's as good, if not slightly better than the Epsons for interesting. But at that point, you would go back and forth. You'd be like, oh, JVC's better when the masking was off on the Epson. And then you'd go, oh, the Epson's better when the masking would come in because you didn't have that perceptual lower native contrast on the, or black floor, I should say, on the black bars. So masking, guys, it's a big deal.
Yep.
Bigger deal than you think.
Right. And so that's why we talk, right? It's got to be a system. And where you might compromise one, like so many times I see people spend all their video budget on the projector and scrimp on a screen.
It should be a good portion of your budget.
I can't remember who said it. Someone famously said, right, that you marry your screen and you date a projector, because the projector you're going to change every 3, 4, 5 years, right? Depending on how enthusiastic you are in this hobby, new models come out. You're going to change that projector over time, especially if you bought lamp based. Then laser comes out, and projectors are still generation on generation getting better. But you invest in a good screen, you don't need to change that for 10 plus 10, like,
Theoretically, depends on if the needs for whatever projector
sure.
change or what have
But
you.
it's worth investing in a good screen.
Yeah,
Always.
they do make a difference, guys. It doesn't mean you have to spend a ton of money. There are some great screens that are not very expensive. Just do your research on screens and don't assume, "Oh, yeah, any screen is great." There's some really crappy screens out there. Um, Caboose 515 has a question, and he asks, "What about 4K native projectors versus 4K pixel shift projectors versus large 4K non-OLED TV? Would the picture quality be different if they are not side by side?" I mean, the TV's almost always going to win as long as it's a good
Oh,
TV.
yeah. But I mean, it wins until you try and put a speaker behind it,
Yeah, that was yes, that's a compromise.
right? um, so 4K native versus pixel shift.
I like to look at this as the M4K from Christie and the Griffin. The M4K is really good, and
Right?
it's a pixel shifter. I don't know anyone that has complained that it is not native 4K. And you know what you get from a non-native 4K projector? Typically better native contrast.
Sure.
Your pixels are bigger.
Now, if you never put a test pattern up, right? If you put up the multicolored
Yes.
quick brown fox test pattern, right, and you're looking at a shift, a wobble, whatever mechanism it's using to extrapolate that versus native, it's not
Sure.
going to be as sharp, right? On those test
No.
patterns, you'll see it every time. And if you get up within 3 inches of the screen and you're looking, you'll see it.
Yeah.
But when you're sat wherever you need to be for 60-degree horizontal viewing angle on the right size screen, do I really care about native versus non-native 4K like I care about brightness and contrast and color gamut? If I had the choice and I took a pixel shifting but with a bigger color gamut and brighter versus native, and I lose some gamut and I lose some brightness, I'm taking the pixel shift almost
Mhm.
every time. And it's
Mhm.
sure it's what you need for that project. It's the right tool for the right job. But pixel shift is not a big enough compromise for me at the normal seating distance to make that something I choose at the expense of something else.
Yep.
I'm going to choose gamma and brightness over native almost every time.
Yep. I would look at it as, does it have a good pixel shifting mechanism or engine? Most manufacturers do. They've got this figured out. Pixel shifters have been out for a long time. I would look at other specifics before I even look at that. Sure, there's certain applications that it can become an issue. If you're highly sensitive to screen door effect, maybe it becomes a problem.
Sure.
I know some people that it is, and especially if you sit close, it just Ben saying that his clients haven't noticed doesn't mean that you won't. I mean,
No,
I'm
agreed.
sitting 9 feet from a
Or I
165.
I didn't say they
I
didn't
can see
notice.
it.
I said they've never mentioned it. They may have
Okay.
noticed
All
and they
right.
just
That's
stayed
fair.
quiet.
That's fair. So
I would
I
hope they would
notice,
mention it, but they may not have done.
but part of that could be that I'm used to a certain thing. It's like you're used to driving a certain car, and then you get into a different car and you're like, "Oh, this feels different." Typically, you adapt and your brain goes, "Ah, I'm okay. I'm not gonna pay attention to that anymore." But, maybe it's something you can't look past. So, I wouldn't think about it, Caboose. I would get whatever ticks all the boxes aside from that and then address if that's an issue after you find one performance-wise that's gonna make it happen. So back
Yeah.
to the discussion, we were talking about the Epsons and we were talking about you brought up the QLs. Um, where were you going with that? Do you remember?
Just how much I liked what it did at that point. And we're not low price points now. With the choice of lenses you're going to use, you're in
30.
$30,000
For the
ballpark.
7,000. This
Right.
the 3,000 is under, it's like mid-teens. I think it's
Sure.
15.9 here in the States. Um, so
The
just
seven, the
depends on
seven's
what you
not
want.
low cost, right? It's not a low cost unit. you're putting it against the top of what Sony and JVC do. And for a long time, I had a bit of a gap in products that I really like. And hey, we'll always choose what's right for the client and for their project and what they need. But there will always be things that I naturally think to myself, I'd spend my own money on this. I'd put one in my own home. And there had been a bit of a gap in the lower JVCs that I probably saw the value in for a screen size. I might put them on. I love the Barker Heimdall.
Oh,
but you're at more money.
It's such a good projector, but it's expensive.
Right. I love what it does. You're at even more money. Does the Epson give me enough of what the Heimdall does to be 30-40% less money?
The issues, so let's talk. I like to make sure that people are informed. The compromises you're going to make on the QL series. The QL series is super bright. It does so at a decent SPL level. It's not overtly loud.
Yeah.
It's absurd, actually, how quiet that projector is. It's not as quiet. The Heimdall is ridiculous.
Crazy
at
quiet.
How quiet it is. You question whether the projector is on, even in a quiet room. The QLs, really bright. You sacrifice native contrast. They're like 2,000 to 1, maybe 3,000 to 1, depending. And you're sacrificing intrascene contrast for that brightness. So I'm going to keep hammering this home. You got to make sure you choose the right projector for the right job. Because if you have an enormous screen, and that is your budget, the QL may deliver, especially with paired with the correct screen, may deliver a more optimal result than if you were to do something like a JVC or Sony.
So let's split out the compromise of a speaker behind that screen. We're seeing bigger screens at lower cost, right? 100-inch screens are basically free now. I think if you look down the back of a sofa, you find, right, they're 100-inch TVs start, the entry level ones, they're basically free. They're so cheap. Good ones, we're still talking thousands of dollars, but sub $10,000 will buy you a really nice 100-inch screen.
You're talking
$25,000, $30,000 will buy you the biggest single panel, like your 115 to 120 inch. Micro LED is still a big jump. So if you're just looking at video, and we know that flat screens can deliver color gamma and brightness and contrast and every other thing we want, at what size does projection still make sense?
I think a lot of them don't have the contrast yet that some of like a DLP projector has, like a intrascene contrast or anything, or even native like that a JVC has. But sharpness and a lot of other stuff, I think the TVs, I think you'd have to go above 120 to really make it make sense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you're willing to compromise, I mean, we're talking in a vacuum. If you were willing to compromise on the audio.
Yeah. But I mean, under 100 inches, is it even that much of a compromise to put the center below? I mean,
no.
You're realistically only moving it a foot, because on a huge screen, from where you might want it to where you've got to get it, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 feet out of place.
Well, and your screen at that size may be too small to really warrant an LCR. So
under 100 inches, I don't think that the audio compromise is even that big.
No.
So
that's fair.
What are we talking? 100 inches are 2.2 wide. Yeah, if you're projecting under 100 inches, I think that's a challenging thing to justify right now with how good some of these screens have got. And it wouldn't have been that long ago that 100-inch TVs were still really expensive and nothing. Take your Epson QB1000 price point, right? We're at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. These Bravia 7, this level. Not that long ago, you couldn't buy a 100-inch TV for less money than that you'd want to own. Now they're
Some
10
of
a
those
penny.
100-inch TVs are shockingly bad, though.
Some of them are fine.
Some of them are fine. Some of them are really bad. So
Sure.
just keep that in mind when don't make the assumption that Ben and I are saying, "Oh, any 100-inch TV is better than," some of them are really bad. So, like, unwatchable for me with the amount of blooming and other things that they
Yeah.
have. But a decent 100-inch TV, they've come down in price considerably. And for flagship, I mean, you're looking at 20, 30 grand, which used to be 100, 200 grand at that size. So pick your
So
poison.
here's now this challenge, right? Because we're saying that under 100-inch TVs probably make sense now
Mhm.
in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
So it's your 100 up, but there's gonna be a point where at these price points, you can't throw enough light to the screen to work. You know, I would try and keep a JVC, any of them, ideally under about 150 inches.
Yeah.
So in this 5 to 30,000 pound price bracket, projection almost only really makes sense from 100 to 150 inches. Outside of that, you've got to spend more
With
money or change
with the
technology.
exception of the QL 7000. With the exception of the QL series, you can go bigger than that.
Yeah, right, sure. Exactly that. So that you're talking $30,000, that will get you there. For sure that will get you there. That, you know, you'll push 180 inches off that and still make it look lovely.
Now, keep in mind that you're not just extending out diagonally. There is a significant increase in going from a 120 to, say, a 140 in surface area of that screen. So it is substantially larger, even though it's just 20 inches. I mean, it is a lot more screen. So a lot more light that has to be lit up. It's spread out quite a bit more. But you are right that for in that price range, I'd like to put it at like 135 is where my limit would be. I think 150, if you put it on the right screen, you could do 150 pretty easily on any of them, like the Sony or the JVC on a positive gain, say an ST130. I think you could do that at 150 and it'd be a great image. But past that, you're really going to want to start looking at more brightness, especially as people get more accustomed to brighter and brighter displays.
Right.
Like I watch daily 300 nits and I don't think I'd want to go lower. It's just transformative for what content,
Yeah.
HDR and everything looks like. It's amazing. As long as you have good enough native contrast and really good ANSI contrast, the image is spectacular. So just pick
300 nits is the right answer, and it's there is a lot of reasons why like DLP HDR, the HDR digital, the DCI HDR specification, why they landed at 300 after working with studios and grading content to a whole range of values. Up to 300, people absolutely see benefits. Like, you throw viewers at it, people see benefits.
yeah.
You go
It
up to
does
4, 5, 6, 700. There is benefits. People sometimes will say it was better, but we're talking diminishing returns. Up
and
to
it gets
300,
way more expensive.
everyone says, like from 1 to 2 to 250 to 3, people absolutely vote it's better. You get beyond that, and it starts to collapse a bit, which means you're
Yeah.
spending more money, throwing more light, all the challenges of it, lighting the whole room up, which can kill your contrast for marginal benefits. 300 is the right number. It's where we should be aiming. It just looks wonderful.
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Where was I going to go after this? I don't remember. We were talking about those projectors.
And hey, we've had a couple of points. One from Mr. Aylett, who's firing his thoughts in.
Oh, is he texting you?
No, Pipe Dreamer 1234 is Mr. Aylett.
Oh, that's Peter.
Maybe I've
Oh,
just outed him. I don't know if that was common knowledge, but that's Peter. And yeah, right. So this was interesting. We're saying that projection makes most sense financially and picture quality, and that 100 to 150 range. This is all center channel dependent, and I'm of a view that below 100, you can make the center channel work. Even by 120, 130, it's starting to upset me. I'm really sensitive to it. I do not like it being out of place any more so than on a 100-inch screen. But up to
Yeah.
100, I'll tolerate it.
You can fool yourself. You can lose yourself, and the brain will go, "Ah." But as I've learned with my setup and being in a lot of these setups that we build at Expo and a lot of the theaters we built, I don't wanna think about it. I wanna go in with the confidence that this is how as good as it's gonna be, and I don't wanna risk being taken out of my immersive experience and noticing that the sound's coming down low. Yes, it's a little detail, but I don't wanna lose that experience. So,
Sure.
great point, Peter.
I got one of the best compliments at the weekend. So the media room, the per listen room we've got here, we intentionally put a load of compromises in place to show how we design around them. The room's not a perfect cube. It has a sloped ceiling. There's big double doors in there's loads of compromises we put in on purpose to design around them, including a 100-inch telly. When somebody says to me, you can barely tell that the center channel's under the screen, it's above. Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
you can't tell it's below the screen, can you? Like, if you're fooled enough to even be commenting that that center channel is under the screen, you've got no idea that I put it above. So
Yeah.
it's on 100, we can make it work really well. We can get you're not far off. You know, you're 18 inches away from where you want it. It's not far off. Angle it in, choose the right speakers. I think you can make it work 100 and below without real compromise.
So a couple questions before we wrap up. Paul Travasino asks, Ryan, if you spent the same amount on video wall as you did on your projector screen, would this video be significantly better?
How much did you
When I
spend?
bought
What's
it,
your retail? What's your retail on screen and
the
display?
Griffin's retail, you're probably at like 130 total for video. Well, if I include, I'm not going to include the Mad VR because that would be on both. So let's say 130. When I built that room a couple years ago, I don't know. I think I'd have to spend significantly more to get that same size wall. I
Yeah.
mean, you could put in like there was and still is the LG 97 OLED, which would kick the snot out of that projector, but it's 97 inches. Um
And remind me, you're how big on yours?
165.
165. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't my thing is I value the audio more, but if you're talking about video quality in a vacuum, I think you could do it now. I don't think I would because I'm too sensitive to seams in video walls. I can't
In dark scenes, particularly.
I can't get away from seeing seams. So I wouldn't want to, but you could get close as long as you weren't sensitive to seams.
If you were watching something bright, I forget the snowboarding documentary on Kaleidoscope. If you're watching something really bright, those seams basically disappear
Yeah, they do.
with bright content. Like above 10% APL, those seams are gone. It's a low light problem.
It is.
And when it's off problem. But so that puts you in the realms the same size as the Sony I saw at AWE.
Mhm.
And UK retail, that's what I think they said £270,000,
Mhm.
more than your display and screen combination cost.
Mhm.
And
I wouldn't
there
wanna
are
deal with the power and being married to it because people say you're married to the screen. Dude, you're married to a wall. Like, it's
sure.
there. It's more of an issue to get it in and out. So, I don't think I'd consider that change even for video quality. I think the Griffin brings a lot to the table. It
If
is a
you lived in a
phenomenal display.
penthouse, I mean, this is why I always go with video walls, right? If I lived in a if I had paid more for the view out the window than the $300,000 display, I'll pay for the display, right?
Yeah.
If I live on Miami Beach and I've got a penthouse and I've spent $1 million more to have that sea view, I'm going to leave the curtains open. I'll take
Mhm.
whichever display works so that I can
And
still
it's
see
not gonna be a
sunset,
projector.
right? So it's not going to be projector. And I've joked for so long that video walls make sense in penthouses where you've paid for the view and you don't want to close the curtains.
Yep.
In a cinema, we're not there. For
No.
me,
David Cook asks, "At what point does professional calibration become worth it? Can the average Joe tinker with calibration, or do the out-of-the-box settings get most people by?" Out of the box has gotten a lot better if we're talking about video. It's gotten a lot better. That does not mean that there is not a substantial perceptual difference because the last X percentage can make a dramatic difference, and it does. And if you're coming to M-Wave, it will be
right?
showcased what that difference looks like. I think every time for projection, it can make TVs, the calibrated modes have gotten darn good.
So good on a lot of
They've
them.
gotten really good. And since they're self-emissive, they're very consistent. Projectors, big time difference.
Yeah. Now, and that comes because, like I think back to when we were at Optoma. So every single one, and I had no idea before I worked there that this even happened, right? Every single one of those projectors gets fired up and measured
Mhm,
on the production
mhm.
line. So I had a spreadsheet. I could go in by serial number and see what the actual light output of every single unit was, what the ANSI contrast was, what the uniformity, the corner to corner uniformity was, right? We had all this data on every single serial number. And there was some flexibility. Luminance drifts by maybe plus minus 10% from the number that marketing give you, right? If it says it does 3,000, some are coming off the line at 2.8, some are coming off at 3.2. They're not all the same. They are often being tweaked so that their calibrated mode is like they might not all be coming out looking exactly the same. They can get dialed in during manufacture depending on how much the product costs and what time's put into it. They can tweak those, but they don't know what screen you're firing it onto. And not all screens are the same color, let's be honest. If you go gray to white to slightly creamy off white to a wall, like screens are not all D65 white.
No.
So that's going to throw it out straight away. The size, the light coming back off the walls. If you've got red walls, it's going to throw a red color cast on. So those things don't really affect a fixed screen panel. All of them affect a projector. No matter how good it comes out the factory, it might not be right. So which bits would you tinker with if you didn't have a meter?
This is getting more difficult because laser is significantly more difficult to calibrate than lamp. You need a
Right?
better meter than you did with lamp. The laser wavelengths are significantly more narrow in order to do this properly. It's more problematic. So I would start by looking into the cheaper versions of Calman, or if you really want to be a masochist, looking into Color Space and the cheaper versions of Color Space. They're tremendously capable, especially Color Space, but you can get lost in the weeds pretty quickly. It's gonna depend
So,
on the value proposition depends on how much
yeah,
you wanna spend on learning and how much you wanna spend on equipment, and does it is it more value based to just hire somebody so you don't have to
right.
worry about it?
So I would say if you're going to tinker, you have to do brightness and contrast by eye, right? That's fine. Do get up a pluge pattern, set your brightness and contrast. You need to do that in every room. You've got to dial that into your screen, to your size, right? Set up brightness and contrast. If I didn't have a decent meter and software, stay the hell away from a CMS. Do
Yeah.
not touch it. You will not make it better. If you go onto AV forums and look up somebody else's settings, you are not going to make your colors look
No.
better.
And your
If
other
you can
issue.
get white to look white, you are absolutely like I hate projectors that out the box. The white is a bit blue or a bit green. Like it drives me nuts. Normally, the best setting will be pretty white. If you can fix that by eye, even grayscale, you're doing better than most.
Yeah.
Trying to change the gain and bias of red Just don't. Do
And a
not
funny
touch
thing
it.
that happens with calibration, and this happens with audio too, is if you're not calibrating to a reference point, you'll go, "Oh yeah, this looks better." And then
Yeah,
the next day you'll roll in and you'll look at it and be like, and then you'll go back to the original, like, man, my calibration looks like garbage in
yeah.
comparison to what the
If you
original
haven't
looks
got a
like.
meter, stay the hell out of the CMS. Just
Yeah.
don't even touch it.
Yeah. Last question. Derek asks, are wider dispersion speakers better for use around TV, DV, LED? This is largely dependent on what you're asking of them. There's a lot of option. There's a lot of things and characteristics that go into what needs to happen with this.
So, maybe.
As is with a lot of things, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe, maybe
it's,
not.
it
Did you
depends.
see the new
There's
speaker?
no
Speaking of
simple
wide
answer.
dispersion, did you see the new speaker announcement?
I have seen a image of it. I was aware it was coming, having
Mm.
not seen it,
I
but
was aware it was too. I'm excited about that speaker.
yeah, I'm not gonna hear it at Expo, so I'll need to get hold of some to listen.
I will get to hear it.
Yeah.
I
I
will
didn't
get
need
to
to,
hear
but
it. It's gonna be cool. Hopefully it's
I believe that's in the room that will have the new Officina Acustica products, I
yes, that's
believe,
in
right?
our room. Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
it's the
be
room
there.
you're fine, cool, right,
Yep.
that room.
I'll be there. Christy, Officina, Sendo, Storm, think Seymour's in there. We're all in there
Cool.
together, all suffering in silence. But nope, we'll be there. So if you'll be at Expo, come see us at that sound room.
Haha,
Uh,
Derek just said that's why he asked.
oh,
He's seen
well, there
that
you go.
announcement too. Yeah, I'll retain judgment till I've seen measurements, and
Yeah.
I need to consider what room you're putting it in. Like, there's loads of questions, but as I understand it, that speaker has a really wide dispersion, which means you've just got to consider you're throwing as much at the floor and the ceiling as you are at you,
Mm-hmm.
and that sound power all now. So you've just got to work it out.
You do, and you got to manage and use it as a system, not everything individually. Well, we will wrap it up from there. I think tonight it'll just be me solo. Jonathan's running a movie night, so I will be doing the stream, just answering all of your guys' questions solo this evening, 7 p.m. Central. If you guys need anything, have any questions about anything, need any gear, need pricing, feel free to reach out to Ben and I. Ben does more on the design stuff. If you need gear, have questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. Our contact info is below. Quick exciting announcement. We are now offering 0% financing. So if anybody has any interest in any of that, feel free to reach out.
Look at you on the
We can get
salesman
you.
front there.
Hey, it was something that it just came about, and I think it makes things a little more approachable. And at 0%, I mean, it's like free money. So why
I
wouldn't you do it?
Next, you're going to be selling used cars, Ryan.
You know, it is something that I'm trying to do once we get this
You've
new
got a few
shop.
cars you're looking to sell anyway, haven't you?
Nah, get this new shop. I do need to get my dealer's license for things. I was trying to get it last year, but it didn't quite work out given the location of my shop. So we'll be that's a totally different conversation, different business. But if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. Again, our contact info is in the description below. Well, Ben, it was a pleasure. I will miss you at
Cheers.
Expo. We will not be streaming next week because I will
We're
be
not.
gone at Cedia. When we get back, hopefully I will have some time and we can go through what was at Cedia. Maybe we can have some people on that were able to walk around. I have limited time in being able to walk around, but no streams next week. All right, we'll wrap it up from there. Ben, thanks as always for joining us. Let us know if you have any questions, need anything. Stay safe out there. Enjoy those home theater journeys, and we'll see you guys in the